you will probably remember the James Callaghan speech at Ruskin College regarding, what education should do to improve. And one of the things was to identify the core things across the curriculum subjects that we want our young people to learn about. And I am still a huge supporter of the national curriculum. I started teaching right at its inception. And the fact was that prior to the national curriculum, you could, for example, if you were in a year 3 class and you had a music graduate, in that year you might have got a fabulous music education. But because there was no kind of structure or framework for the overall curriculum across the country, you might not have got any history or geography at all, for example. And that was because there was no expectation that you would. There was no framework that set out what our young people would have to learn at what became key stages as they went through their schooling. And that kind of seems, if you came into teaching in the last 5 to 10 years, it seems almost impossible that would be the case. But that was the case. And you then might have gone on to year 4, and that person might have, graduated in physics. Seems unlikely, but, and gone into primary teaching. And as a result, you might have got a great science education in year 4, but probably very little music or RS. And so a number of things were wrong with it. So that was, it was a defining moment really for education in this country. And I suspect that when Ofsted was set up, and the national curriculum had been embedded for about 3 years by then, and a few years after that, further embedded, the inspectorate thought, well, curriculum's basically sorted because all the schools across the country have to teach the national curriculum. And of course, when you get into Key Stage 4, that is embedded within the GCSE specifications. So actually, whilst there are other things to look at and consider, let's focus on that because we know what schools should be teaching. And of course, the focus at that point, or foci rather, was on English and maths, because the Three Wise Men report identified those as being particularly weak areas of youngsters' education through primary, and too few children were coming through with high enough attainment in literacy and numeracy. So that was the country's focus. So again, national curriculum can help with that. What, of course, happened in that area, though, was that it got to silly proportions. I believe that we've got many secondary colleagues. Have we got many primary colleagues in the audience today? So, So those colleagues will remember, being told what to teach hour by hour through the national literacy and numeracy strategies. Not only told hour by hour, but virtually 15 minute by 15 minutes. So on Tuesday at 10:30, you knew you'd be doing a plenary on the semicolon or something with year 4 or whatever. And so that level of prescription is clearly too much if you are trying to, generate autonomy and what have you in the system, and teachers making the right kind of decisions for their pupils.